Ever feel like your mind is just like a runaway train? Thoughts chugging along, no conductor in sight.
Ooh, I know that feeling.
Well, what if I told you there's this ancient text, the Amritabindu Upanishad? It's basically like a guidebook to reclaiming that control and finding some like true inner peace, you know?
Yeah, it's true. This Upanishad, it isn't about just emptying your mind. It's more like refining it.
Refining it.
Yeah, think less empty space and more perfectly tuned instrument.
I like that. Okay, so instead of silencing our thoughts, we're learning to conduct them toward liberation.
Moksha, right.
Exactly. And the Amritabindu Upanishad, it lays the groundwork beautifully by introducing this whole idea of two minds. One pure, one not so pure.
Two minds.
Yeah, imagine your mind is like a garden.
Okay, I'm picturing it lush and green, I hope.
Right. So one part is flourishing, flowers of peace, clarity, wisdom, but then another section, totally overrun with weeds, doubts, desires, anxieties.
Book, too real. Yeah, these are our pure and impure minds. And the Upanishad, it suggests that our journey to liberation, it starts with just recognizing these two forces kind of battling it out within us.
Oh, we've all felt that tug of war, right? It's like, you should be meditating, but suddenly that new series on, So how do we even begin to cultivate the prize-winning garden version of our minds? Does this Upanishad, does it give us any practical tips, or is it all very,
Lofty.
yeah, theoretical?
Well, that's what's exciting. The Amritabindu Upanishad, it's all about action, not just armchair philosophizing. In fact, it actually uses a brilliant analogy to emphasize this point.
Okay, hit me with it. What's the analogy?
It compares scriptures to cows.
The cows.
Cows and true knowledge to the milk.
Hold on, I love where this is going.
Right. You wouldn't buy a whole cow and then just stare at it longingly, hoping for milk, would you?
Well, I mean, no.
No. You'd learn to milk it. The Upanishad is saying it's the same with these ancient texts. They're full of potential wisdom, but we need to engage actively, extract the essence, and actually apply those teachings.
So it's not enough to just intellectually understand the concepts, right? We need deeper engagement to really embody them, make them a part of our lives. But how exactly does the Amritabindu Upanishad suggest we do that?
Well, it offers a specific framework, a six-limbed yoga system. Now, you might be familiar with Patanjali's 8 limbs.
Sure.
This is a bit different, a unique approach to achieving that inner transformation.
6 limbs instead of 8. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's unpack these limbs and see how they work.
They are essentially 6 practices: restraint, control of the senses, withdrawal of the mind from distractions, endurance, faith, and focus.
Wow. It sounds, I don't know, much more about mental discipline than the physical aspects of yoga we often hear about today.
You're right. While physical postures can be part of the practice, the Amritabindu Upanishad, like many ancient yogic texts, it emphasizes the internal work.
It's internal.
Think of it as building mental muscles, training your mind to be present, focused, and ultimately free from those constant fluctuations.
It makes sense, especially since the Upanishad highlights the mind as the key to liberation.
Exactly.
It's not just about mastering a pose, right? It's about mastering ourselves.
Yes.
And speaking of mastering ourselves, the Amritabindu Upanishad dives even deeper, right? It tackles the very nature of reality itself with this whole concept of
non-dualism.
Yes, non-dualism.
And this is where things get really fascinating. Imagine a clear, open sky reflected in countless pots of water. Each reflection seems separate, right?
Right.
But it's all just one sky.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
The Upanishad uses this analogy to describe the relationship between our individual selves, what we call Atman, and the ultimate reality, Brahman. It's suggesting that just like those reflections, we might appear separate, but deep down, we're all part of that one infinite reality.
So we are all inherently connected to this ultimate reality. But if that's true, then what's the point of striving for liberation? Aren't we already a part of it?
That's the paradox, right? And the Upanishad suggests that we are already part of that oneness, but we don't realize it. Our perception is like a pot, seemingly containing a limited amount of space. But break the pot.
And that space within just merges with the infinite space outside. Our true self is like that boundless space, untouched by the limitations we perceive.
Precisely. And the Amritabindu Upanishad offers some specific practices, particularly meditation, to help us break free from that limited perception and actually experience that inherent freedom.
Meditation to, shatter the illusion of separation. This is where the practical application of these ancient teachings really comes to life. Let's explore these practices in detail and see how they can help us connect with that boundless reality the Upanishad describes.
All right, we're back. Ready to unpack these meditation practices from the Amritabindu Upanishad?
Let's do it. So if realizing our connection to like everything is like shattering that metaphorical pot, what tools does the Upanishad offer to actually help us, do that?
Well, it highlights two powerful techniques.
Okay.
The first one might surprise you, meditating on the sound Om.
Now, I've definitely chanted that in a yoga class or two, but I'll admit, I always kind of thought of it more as like a cool sound than, some powerful tool. What's the like deeper significance here?
Right. It's not just a trendy chant or anything. The Upanishad, it describes Om as this bridge between our everyday awareness and that ultimate reality, Brahman.
Okay.
You see, our minds are usually buzzing with thoughts, worries, plans for later, whatever. It's like this constant noise.
Oh, yeah.
But focusing on the sound Om, feeling its resonance, it can help quiet that internal chatter.
So it's like using a sound to cut through the mental clutter, almost like, noise-canceling headphones for the soul.
Exactly. It's about shifting our attention from that constant stream of thoughts to something much, much vaster, something beyond the limitations of language even. And through that shift, we might even catch a glimpse of that, formless infinite Brahman we were talking about earlier.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like Om becomes this sonic key to like unlock a deeper level of awareness. And what about the second meditation technique? Does it involve any other, cool sounds, or is it a completely different approach?
The second practice is less about a specific technique and more about a mindset, really.
Okay. Yeah.
The Amritabindu Upanishad, it emphasizes direct experience above all else.
Okay.
It's an invitation to become active participants in our own spiritual growth,
Right.
rather than just passive recipients of information.
So less reading the instruction manual and more actually building the furniture.
That's a great way to put it. We could spend our lives reading scriptures, listening to lectures, but the Upanishad, it reminds us that true knowledge, it's experiential. It's about taking those teachings and actually testing them out in our own lives, seeing how they hold up through direct experience.
It's about making those ancient teachings come alive in the present moment, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just intellectually grasping the idea that, we're connected to everything, we need to feel that connection, experience it for ourselves.
Precisely. And the Amritabindu Upanishad goes even further, highlighting the transformative power of this direct experience. Remember that analogy of milk?
How could I forget? Milk is wisdom, scriptures are cows. Got it.
Well, think about it. Drinking milk doesn't just give you information about a cow.
Right.
It nourishes you. It becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
The Upanishad suggests that experiencing these truths directly, it has that same transformative power.
So it's not just about adding knowledge to our lives. It's about letting that wisdom actually change us from the inside out.
Exactly. And this transformation, the Upanishad argues, it's at the very heart of liberation. Remember, it's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually. It's about embodying them, letting them reshape our perception of ourselves and the world around us.
It's about shifting from, I think I understand this, to I am living this, right?
Yes.
And speaking of living it, the Amritabindu Upanishad, it doesn't shy away from practical advice on how to actually integrate these teachings into our daily routines.
Right.
In fact, it offers a very specific system for cultivating that pure mind we talked about earlier. Remember?
Yes. The six-limbed yoga system. It's like a practical roadmap for actually navigating the inner world and achieving that state of liberation. Are you ready to kind of dive into these six limbs and see how they can be applied in our modern lives?
You bet. But before we do that, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the pure mind and how it's, contrasted with the impure mind.
Right.
What exactly does the Amritabindu Upanishad mean by impure? Does it mean we're supposed to be judging our thoughts and feelings?
That's a great question and a common misunderstanding. The Upanishad isn't about, labeling our minds as inherently good or bad.
Yeah.
Instead, it's about recognizing that our minds naturally gravitate towards certain things, sensory pleasures, desires, anxieties. These are just tendencies, not moral judgments.
So it's not about judging ourselves, but more understanding how our minds work, right? I mean, we all experience those cravings and distractions. It's part of being human.
Precisely. The fixed limbs, they aren't meant to eliminate these tendencies entirely, but to help us, relate to them differently. They offer tools to observe these mental patterns without getting, completely swept away by them.
So it's less about becoming some kind of emotionless robot and more about developing a sense of inner freedom. resilience.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of being controlled by our thoughts and desires, we can learn to choose how we respond to them.
Exactly. And that ability to choose, that sense of agency, it's a crucial step on the path to liberation, as the Upanishad described it. So let's delve into these 6 limbs and see how they can help us cultivate that inner freedom.
Sounds like a plan. The first limb is restraint. Now, when I hear restraint, I immediately think of strict rules, limitations, Is that what the Upanishad is getting at?
Not necessarily. Think of it more like setting healthy boundaries for yourself.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that constantly chasing after every desire or impulse, it can actually lead to more suffering in the long run. Restraint, in this context, it's about making conscious choices that align with our deeper values and aspirations, rather than just being ruled by, fleeting impulses.
So it's about finding a sense of balance and intention in our actions. Instead of being, swept away by every craving or urge, we pause, we reflect, and we choose a course of action that's aligned with our long-term well-being.
Exactly. And this sense of restraint, this ability to pause and choose consciously, it naturally leads us to the next limb, control of the senses.
Control of the senses. Okay, that sounds even more challenging in today's world. With constant stimulation and distractions vying for our attention, what does that even look like in practice?
Yeah, you're right. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But the Upanishad isn't advocating for complete sensory deprivation or anything.
Okay.
It's more about being mindful of how our senses influence our minds.
So it's about becoming aware of how things like sights, sounds, even tastes can trigger certain thoughts and behaviors, like how, seeing an ad for a juicy burger can make you crave junk food even though you just ate a healthy lunch.
Exactly. Control of the senses is about recognizing those triggers and making, again, conscious choices about how we respond. It's about finding a balance between, enjoying sensory pleasures and not letting them totally dictate our thoughts and actions.
So finding that sweet spot between indulgence and discipline where we can enjoy the world around us without letting it, completely control us.
Yes. And this awareness of our senses, it naturally leads us inward to the next limb, withdrawal of the mind from distractions.
Withdrawal of the mind. Okay, now I'm picturing myself meditating in a cave on a mountaintop. How practical is this for the average person? Yeah. Especially in our, always on hyper-connected world.
Right. You don't need a cave to experience this kind of withdrawal.
Yeah.
It's less about physically escaping from the world and more about cultivating an inner sanctuary, a space of stillness and clarity within ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
The Upanishad suggests that this inner sanctuary, it's always available to us, regardless of our external circumstances.
It's like finding that do not disturb button for our minds, right? Even amidst the hustle and bustle of daily life, we can create these moments of quiet reflection where we disconnect from the external distractions and reconnect with ourselves.
Precisely. And it's in those moments of quiet reflection that we can truly cultivate the next limb. Endurance.
Endurance. Now that sounds intense. What exactly are we supposed to be enduring here?
Well, think about it. The path to liberation, the process of refining our minds, breaking free from these limiting patterns, it's not always easy. There are going to be challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt. Endurance, in this context, it's about cultivating the inner strength and resilience to keep going, even when things get tough.
So it's about developing the mental stamina to stick with the practices, even when we don't see, immediate results or when life throws us curveballs.
Exactly. Endurance is about trusting the process and remembering why we embarked on this journey in the first place.
That's so important. It's so easy to get discouraged when things get challenging, but remembering the bigger picture, that desire for, growth and liberation, it can really help us stay the course.
And it's this unwavering commitment, this sense of endurance that naturally gives rise to the next limb, which is faith.
Faith. Now, we're getting into some interesting territory. When I hear faith, I often think of religious beliefs.
Right.
Is the Upanishad talking about believing in a specific deity or doctrine?
Not quite. The kind of faith the Amritabindu Upanishad emphasizes, it's less about blind belief and more about trust. Trust in the teachings, trust in our own innate capacity for growth and transformation, and trust in the process itself.
So it's not about believing something blindly, but rather cultivating a deep sense of trust in the journey, even if we can't always see the destination.
Exactly. It's about embracing the unknown with courage and curiosity, knowing that the path unfolds, one step at a time.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. Not as blind faith, but as a fearless embrace of the journey itself. Yeah. And this trust, this faith, it ultimately leads us to the final limb, right?
Yeah.
Focus.
Focus is the culmination of all the previous limbs.
Okay.
It's the ability to direct our attention inward toward that pure mind, that space of clarity and peace within ourselves.
So it's like all these other limbs restraint, control of the senses, withdrawal, endurance, faith. They're all supporting this final stage of focus, of truly connecting with our inner selves.
Precisely. Remember that analogy of the mind as a garden? Focus is about tending to that garden with care and intention, cultivating the seeds of peace, wisdom, and liberation.
It's about taking all the tools that the Amritabindu Upanishad has offered us, the meditation techniques, the understanding of non-dualism, the 6 limbs of yoga, and using them to create a life that reflects our highest aspirations.
Exactly. And remember, the journey, it doesn't, end there.
Right.
The Upanishad reminds us that the path to liberation is ongoing, a constant process of refining our minds, deepening our awareness, and connecting with that boundless reality within and around us.
It's about embodying these teachings in every aspect of our lives, making them a living, breathing part of who we are. It's amazing how these ancient practices can still feel so relevant to our modern lives, Take the 6 limbs of yoga.
Absolutely. It's like the Amritabindu Upanishad is offering this timeless toolkit, for navigating all the complexities of the mind and the world around us.
Totally. And a big part of that toolkit, as we've been discussing, is meditation. Earlier, we dove into the practice of meditating on the sound
Right.
But there's another meditation technique the Upanishad highlights, right? One that's less about a specific practice and more about an overall approach, I guess.
Exactly. The Upanishad, it emphasizes this idea of direct experience above all else. It's an invitation to become active participants in our own spiritual growth rather than just,
passive.
Passive recipients of information.
So less reading the instruction manual and more actually building the furniture.
Yes, exactly. We can spend our whole lives reading scriptures, listening to lectures, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Upanishad, it reminds us that true knowledge, it's experiential. It's about taking those teachings and actually testing them out in our own lives.
Yeah.
Seeing how they hold up through direct experience.
It's about making those ancient teachings come alive in the present moment, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just intellectually grasping this idea that we're connected to everything, we need to feel that connection, experience it for ourselves.
Precisely. And the Amritabindu Upanishad goes even further, highlighting the transformative power of this direct experience. Remember that analogy of milk?
Of course. Milk is wisdom, scriptures are cows. Got it.
Well, think about it. Drinking milk, it doesn't just give you information about a cow.
Right.
It nourishes you. It becomes a part of you. The Upanishad suggests that, experiencing these truths directly has that same transformative power.
Wow. So it's not just about, adding knowledge to our lives. It's about letting that wisdom, change us from the inside out.
Exactly. And this transformation, the Upanishad argues, it's at the very heart of liberation. Remember, it's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually. It's about embodying them, letting them reshape our perception of ourselves and, the world around us.
It's about shifting from, I think I understand this, to I am living this. And, the beautiful thing is we don't have to choose just one technique or approach, right? The Amritabindu Upanishad, it encourages us to find what resonates with us, what helps us connect with that, deeper reality, whether it's chanting Om, practicing the 6 limbs, or even just cultivating a sense of presence and awareness in our everyday lives.
Exactly. It's about finding our own unique path, our own way of integrating these timeless teachings into the tapestry of our lives.
This whole deep dive has been such an enriching journey through the Amritabindu Upanishad. We've explored the concept of 2 minds, unpacked the 6 limbs of yoga, delved into the profound idea of non-dualism, and even experimented with the sound of Om together.
It's been great.
And through it all, what's struck me the most is the Upanishad's emphasis on practicality. It doesn't just present these lofty philosophical ideas, it provides tangible tools and practices to actually apply these teachings in a way that can truly transform our lives,
It's true. It's a powerful reminder that the journey to liberation, it isn't some far-off destination or whatever. It's an ongoing process.
The self-discovery.
Yeah, continuous unfolding of our own innate wisdom and potential.
Yeah.
And the best part is it's a journey we can all embark on regardless of our background or beliefs.
Absolutely. The Amritabindu Upanishad, it invites us to approach this journey with curiosity, courage, and a willingness to, to explore the depths of our own being.
I like that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought to ponder. If, as the Upanishad suggests, our true nature is already, perfect and free,
Mhm.
then what is it we are actually seeking liberation from? Perhaps the journey itself is the destination, a continuous process of remembering and embodying our own inherent wholeness.
That's beautiful. And a very fitting note to end on. May this deep dive serve as a starting point for your own exploration, a spark to ignite that flame of self-discovery within you.
I love that. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into that boundless wisdom that resides within and all around you.